My name is Andrew. My life felt perfect, absolutely perfect, until that night. I was going to marry Lily. We had been together since college, building dreams brick by brick. My best friend Sam was going to be my best man. My parents were thrilled, already planning their future as grandparents. Our engagement dinner was supposed to be pure joy, a celebrat Andron with 46 of our closest friends and family. Everything looked amazing. But I learned too late that perfect Andron is just a thin surface. Underneath it, hidden from me because I was blind or maybe just too trusting, was a mess of secrets and betrayal. Then Lily stood up during supper. She just stood up in the middle of everyone eating. The room went quiet. My world shattered right then and there, like a cheap piñata smashed open. Her words hit me like a physical blow. She announced she was leaving me. For Sam. For my best friend. The words echoed in my ears long after I stumbled away from that table. I remember my mother's face collapsing, the horror in my father's eyes, the awful shuffling of chairs as guests tried to understand the disaster happening right in front of them. Humiliate Andron washed over me, cold and thick. The next few weeks were a dark, numb blur. I stayed at my brother Dan's house. Dan, older than me by 3 years, has always been the strong one in our family, the steady pillar. He didn't push. He didn't ask endless androns. He just handed me a cold beer and let me sleep on his couch for days on end. I was grateful for his silence. It gave me space to just feel the crushing pain without having to explain it. I felt broken, hollowed out. Eventually, I had to go back to my own apartment. The apartment Lily and I had shared. She had taken her things, but her ghost was everywhere. It haunted the empty spaces on the shelves. It lingered in a single forgotten hairpin left on the bathroom counter. It clung to the scent of a half-burned candle on the window ledge. Every corner screamed memories of a life that was gone. I tried to bury myself in work. I drowned myself in spreadsheets and client meetings, hoping the busyness would numb the ache deep inside. It helped a little, sometimes. But then I'd catch myself staring blankly out the window, lost in the same agonizing Andron. How did everything go so wrong? Sam tried to reach out. Texts came, one after another. I never opened them. I couldn't face him. Not after what he did. Not after what they both did. The betrayal cut deeper than I ever imagined possible. Sam wasn't just a friend. He was my brother from another mother. We met in middle school. We bonded over comic books and terrible science fiction Andron movies. I trusted him with everything, every secret, every hope. And he repaid the trust by stealing the one person I thought would always be mine. The hurt twisted inside me, sharp and constant. Then, 8 months later, Lily showed up at my door. Today. She stood there with mascara streaked down her cheeks like dark, messy rivers. My heart hammered against my ribs. Part of me wanted to slam the door so hard the frame shook, to scream at her to leave and never come back. But another part, the part that remembered how her eyes crinkled when she laughed at my stupid jokes, the part that remembered lazy Sunday mornings, froze. She looked utterly lost, like a child who'd wandered too far into the woods. I stood there, torn wide open between burning rage and something that felt horribly like pity. Andrew, she whispered, her voice cracking like thin ice. I am so sorry. I did not know who else to come to. I wanted to shout. Why did she think I would care? Why did she believe I would be her safe harbor after she shipwrecked my life? But the words stuck in my throat, thick and painful. Instead, I just nodded slowly, my jaw clenched tight, and gestured for her to come inside. I could barely breathe. We sat in my living room, the silence so heavy it pressed down on us. It felt like hours passed, filled only by the frantic pounding of my own heart and the unspoken wreckage between us. Finally, the words burst out of her, fast and desperate. Sam left her. Apparently, the grass wasn't greener on the other side after all. She realized too late that what she thought was love was just a stupid, selfish infatuate andron. She wanted to come back. She wanted to fix everything she broke. She begged for another chance, but sitting there, listening, a cold certainty settled over me. Some broken things cannot be glued back together. Some trust, once shattered, is gone forever. I looked at her, this woman I once planned to spend my life with, and I felt like I was looking at a stranger. I do not know what I will do next. Part of me aches to forgive her, to try and salvage some tiny piece of the beautiful dream we once shared from the ashes. But another part, the part that has been slowly, painfully rebuilding itself brick by lonely brick, knows deep down that truly moving forward means letting go. Maybe time will tell which part wins. For now, I am just trying to breathe. One breath. One day. Trying to forgive myself for not seeing the cracks in our perfect surface before the whole thing collapsed. Later, I sat in my car outside my office. The engine was off, but the silence felt loud. I tried to make sense of Lily suddenly being back. The bitter irony choked me. For months, I fought to forget the sound of her laugh, the way sunlight caught her hair. Now here she was, begging for forgiveness, and I felt like a stranger trapped inside my own skin. The office building loomed, a sharp reminder of the fragile new life I'd built after she destroyed the old one. I was supposed to be inside, answering emails, pretending everything was normal. But instead, I was paralyzed in the parking lot, wrestling with ghosts I thought I'd finally escaped. Andrew, Lily had whispered, her voice thin and broken. I know I made a mistake. I know I hurt you. But please understand, I never meant to. Her words hung there, full of things she couldn't say. Part of me wanted so badly to believe her, to pretend the last 8 months were just a terrible nightmare. But I couldn't shake the image burned into my mind. Her standing at our engagement dinner, her hand tightly clasped in Sam's, like it belonged there. Like I was already gone. I shook my head hard, trying to clear the awful memory. Her apology was like a cool cloth on a burn, but it was also a knife, slicing open wounds I'd carefully stitched shut. Did she really think her tears and regret could mend this? Could betrayal ever truly be erased? The truth was, part of me desperately wanted to forgive her. Not for her sake, but for mine. I wanted to let go of the poisonous bitterness that had seeped into my bones. I wanted peace from the storm she left inside me. But another part, the part that had learned how to stand alone, how to breathe without her, wasn't ready. It built walls to protect itself, and those walls weren't ready to come down. My phone buzzed, lighting up the dim car. A message from Dan. You okay? Simple. Direct. That was Dan. He never drowned you in words, just offered his presence like a solid rock in a churning sea. I sighed, the sound loud in the quiet car, and texted back. Yeah. Just processing. She came by today. His reply was immediate. Want to talk? I stared at the screen. Did I want to talk? Did I even know what to say? Before I could decide, another message popped up. From a number I didn't recognize. Andrew, it's Sam. Can we meet? My heart stopped, then slammed against my ribs so hard I gasped. Sam. Just seeing his name felt like a punch. He hadn't tried to contact me in months. Not since those first frantic texts and voicemails I'd ignored. Why now? I had no idea what he wanted, but I knew I couldn't face him. Not now. Maybe not ever. I closed the message without replying, my head spinning. The air in the car felt thick and suffocating. I needed to move. I started the engine and drove, the road ahead a welcome escape. I drove without direct andron, the city blurring past. Familiar streets offered a strange comfort. Without thinking, I found myself driving towards the park. Our park. Where Lily and I spent lazy Sundays feeding ducks, back when the future felt bright and endless. It was a place heavy with memories, good and bad, but I needed to face them. The park was quiet in the late afternoon light, long shadows stretching across the grass. I parked and walked to the pond, watching the water shimmer. I sat on a bench, closed my eyes, and listened. Children laughing somewhere far off. Leaves rustling. For the first time in months, a tiny flicker of calm touched me. Lily's return had ripped open old wounds, but maybe that was necessary. Maybe it was time to truly face the past, to feel the pain fully, and finally let it go. I took a deep, shaky breath of cool air and opened my eyes. The path ahead was still dark, but I knew one thing. Hiding from my feelings wouldn't work anymore. Forgiving Lily, letting her back in, that was my choice alone. But for now, I'd take it slow. One step. One day. My phone buzzed again on the bench beside me. Another message from Sam. Please, Andrew. It's important. I stared at the words, my pulse racing. What could be so important after all this silence? I didn't know, but I knew ignoring him forever wasn't the answer. Maybe it was time to hear him out, to truly end this awful chapter. I stood up. The Desi's Andron settled in my bones. I would meet Sam. I would listen. And then, maybe, I could finally move forward. Meeting Sam felt like lifting a heavy stone off my chest. But as I drove to the little cafe where we'd agreed to meet, a different weight settled on me. The weight of not knowing, the fear of old pain flaring up again. The cafe was a place from our past, a cozy spot off the main street we loved in college, full of mismatched chairs and the warm smell of baking. It felt like a lifetime ago. I parked a block away, needing the walk to steady my nerves. Fallen leaves crunched under my feet as I walked to the door. I paused, took another deep breath, and pushed it open. Sam was already there, sitting at a corner table. He looked up as I entered. He looked different. Older. Tired. Worn down. It was hard to tell. I walked towards him slowly, each step feeling like a mile. "Hey," I managed, my voice barely a whisper. "Hey," he said, standing awkwardly. "Thanks for coming." I nodded and sat down opposite him. The silence stretched between us, thick with everything left unsaid. I looked at him, trying to see the boy I grew up with in this stranger's face. His hair was longer, messier. Dark circles shadowed his eyes. He looked exhausted. "I'm sorry, Andrew," he said, his voice strained. "I know I have no right to ask anything of you. But I needed to explain." I leaned back, crossing my arms, bracing myself. "Explain what, Sam? That you and Lily fell in love? That betraying me was okay?" He flinched, shame clear on his face. "I never planned any of this. It just happened." "I know that's no excuse." "Then why now?" I asked, the quest Andron burning. "Why reach out after all this time?" He hesitated, looking down at his hands. "Because I'm leaving. Andrew, I got a job. In Seattle. I'm moving next week." The words hit me like a physical blow. Sam was leaving. Putting miles between us felt like the final ending of something that was already dead. "So this is goodbye?" I asked, my voice flat. "Yeah," he said softly. "I couldn't leave without trying. Without saying I'm sorry. Trying to make things right, or as right as they can be now." A bitter laugh almost escaped me. As if sorry could fix this. But sitting there, looking at the face that was once closer than a brother, I realized I needed this too. This ending. This closure. "Do you love her?" The quest Andron slipped out before I could stop it. He met my eyes. "I thought I did. Now? I don't know. Everything's just messed up." I nodded. It was more than I wanted to admit. Love didn't play fair. Lily, she's staying, he added, his voice barely audible. We're done. The words hung there. A final confirm at Andron that the last 8 months were real. I ran a hand through my hair, feeling the weight of it all. I don't know if I can forgive you, Sam, I said finally, the truth sharp in my mouth. But I don't want to hate you either. It's too heavy. He nodded, a flicker of relief in his eyes. I understand. And I'm sorry, Andrew. For everything. We sat a little longer, sipping lukewarm coffee, talking about nothing important. It felt strange, finding this fragile piece in the ruins of our friendship. But looking at him, I felt it. This was the end. A chance to let go. When we finally stood to leave, the moment hung between us. Sam held out his hand. After a heartbeat, I took it. His grip was firm, a silent echo of everything we'd shared and lost. Take care of yourself, Andrew, he said quietly. You too, I replied, letting his hand go. I watched him walk away, and a surprising calm washed over me. The past was done. The future was unwritten. I turned to leave, ready to face whatever came next. My phone buzzed as I reached my car. A message from Dan. Dinner at Mom's tomorrow. She's making your favorite. I smiled, texting back quickly. Wouldn't miss it. Sliding into the driver's seat, a flicker of hope sparked inside me. Maybe this was the start of something new. As I drove away, the city lights glowing in the dusk, I knew one thing. I was finally ready to let the past rest. But then I turned onto my street. My phone buzzed again. A new message. This time from Lily. Can we talk? I stared at the screen, the words blurring. My heart stumbled. It seemed the past wasn't done with me yet, sitting in my car, staring at Lily's message, a familiar ache tugged deep in my chest. It was the same feeling I'd had the first time I saw her across that crowded college lecture hall. The same feeling that kept me dreaming about our future. Now, that feeling was tangled with something else. Fear. Raw, cold fear. I knew I couldn't avoid her forever, just like I couldn't avoid Sam. But facing her meant ripping open wounds I'd just started to bandage. I sighed, the sound heavy in the quiet car. I typed a reply. Okay. Tomorrow. Her answer came instantly. Thank you. I'll come by your place. I tossed my phone onto the passenger seat, trying to push back the wave of dread. I needed noise. Movement. Anything. I started the engine, the roar a welcome distract Andron. I drove without thinking, ending up at the gym I hadn't visited in months. It used to be my sanctuary. The clang of weights, the steady thump of my feet on the treadmill, they used to drown out the world. The familiar smells of rubber and sweat hit me as I walked in. I changed quickly and headed for the free weights, hoping the physical pain would push out the adrenal storm. Lift. Breathe. Focus on the burn in my muscles. But no matter how hard I pushed, the thoughts broke through. Lily. Sam. The tangled mess of our past held me tight, a constant reminder of broken promises. Would I ever be free of it? Or was I doomed to carry these ghosts? After an hour, I gave up. My body was tired, but my mind raced. In the locker room, I splashed cold water on my face, but it couldn't wash away the memories. I looked in the mirror. The man staring back was a stranger. Older. Wearier. Like he'd lived 100 years since that engagement dinner. I dried my face and walked out. The sun was setting, painting long, lonely shadows. My phone buzzed again. Dan. Hey. You okay? Want to come over for a beer? I smiled, relief flooding me. Yes. Be there in 20. The drive to Dan's was short. He was waiting on the porch, 2 beers in hand. He tossed one to me as I walked up. We sank into the worn chairs that had seen so many talks. Thanks for coming, he said, taking a sip. Mom's been asking. She's worried. I nodded, a familiar guilt settling in. I'll call her tomorrow. Just needed space to think. He looked at me, then nodded slowly. Lily? Yeah, I said, the name heavy on my tongue. She wants to talk. Dan stayed quiet. He took another sip. He always knew when to push and when to just be there. We sat in comfortable silence, crickets chirping, the cool night air soothing. Looking at the yard, the trees swaying gently, a strange peace touched me. I met with Sam today, I said finally, breaking the quiet. He's moving. To Seattle. Dan raised an eyebrow. And? How do you feel? I shrugged. Relieved. Sad too. It's complicated. Life usually is, he said with a small smile. But you're handling it. I appreciated it, even if I didn't feel strong. We talked about work, about movies, avoiding the big thing. But eventually, it circled back. Do you think you'll forgive her? Dan asked, his voice gentle but direct. I don't know, I admitted, the truth a weight in my chest. I want to. But it's hard. Part of me still loves her. Part of me just can't. He nodded, understanding in his eyes. Whatever you decide, make sure it's for you. Not for her. I nodded. Thanks, Dan. I mean it. We sat longer, stars appearing overhead, the world quiet. It was a moment of calm in the storm. I finally stood, stretching. I should go. Need sleep before tomorrow. Dan stood too. Call me if you need anything. Will do, I said, clapping his shoulder. Thanks. Driving home, the streets were empty. A strange mix of dread and hope churned in my stomach. Tomorrow would bring answers. Crawling into bed, exhaust Andren pulled at me, but sleep wouldn't come. I stared at the ceiling. Lily. Sam. What would she say? What would I say? Could this finally bring peace? As sleep finally dragged me under, one thought anchored me. Whatever happened, I was ready. Ready to face the past and finally, truly, let it go. Sunlight cut through the blinds, striping the floor. I lay there, piecing together fragments of restless dreams filled with Lily and Sam. Today was the day. I dragged myself out of bed, the weight of the coming conversat Andren heavy on my shoulders. The apartment was quiet, just the distant hum of traffic. Making coffee was a small anchor to the present. The rich smell filled the kitchen. I tried to focus on pouring the cup, hoping the routine would calm my racing heart. The knock came too soon. Sharp. Final. I set the mug down, wiped my suddenly damp hands on my pants, and took a deep, shaky breath. I opened the door. Lily stood there, her eyes searching mine. She looked different. Older. Worn. Her hair was pulled back simply, her sweater hanging loose. Hi, she said softly, her voice tentative. Hi, I replied, stepping aside. She walked past me. Her presence, once so familiar, felt foreign now. We sat in the living room. The silence stretched, fragile and tense. She looked around, her eyes lingering on the empty spaces where her things used to be. It felt strange, seeing her here again in the heart of our shared past. Thanks for seeing me, she murmured, twisting her hands in her lap. I figured we needed to, I said, keeping my voice steady. It's been a long time. She nodded, meeting my gaze. I know I hurt you, Andrew. I'm so sorry. For everything. Her words were raw, but they couldn't change what happened. I looked away, focusing on a spot on the carpet. Why now, Lily? Why come back? She took a deep breath, looking down. Because I made a huge mistake. I thought I wanted something else, but I was wrong. I've spent months lost, trying to figure out how to fix what I broke. I let the words sink in, heavy and sad. And Sam? I asked, needing to hear it. We're done, she whispered, her voice thick. He's moving to Seattle. It's over. I nodded. Relief mixed with the bitter taste of it all. I met with him yesterday, I told her, watching her react. Andrew. Shock flickered, then something else. Hope. We talked. He apologized. Said he didn't want to leave without trying. I paused, choosing my next words carefully. I'm trying to move on, Lily. But it's hard. She nodded, a tear escaping. I understand. I don't expect you to forgive me. Not yet. But I had to try. Silence fell again, thick with everything unsaid. The hum of the refrigerator was the only sound. I felt the weight of her hope pressing on me. I don't know if I can forgive you, I said finally, the words barely a whisper. But I don't want to carry this anger anymore. It's too heavy. She wiped her tears, a small, fragile smile touching her lips. That's all I can ask for. We talked a little longer, awkwardly shifting to safer topics like work and old friends. It felt strange, mundane, but also like a first step. When she stood to leave, it felt like an ending. Thank you, Andrew, she said, her voice sincere. For hearing me. I nodded, walking her to the door. Take care, Lily. You too, she said, hesitating for a second before stepping into the hall. I closed the door softly and stood there, engulfed by the silence. It had been painful, but necessary. A step towards healing. Towards letting go. My phone buzzed on the coffee table. I picked it up. Dan. Mom's making lasagna. You in? I smiled. The warmth of family was a balm. I texted back. Wouldn't miss it. Putting the phone down, a sense of quiet calm washed over me. The future was still unknown, but for the first time in months, I felt like I could see a path forward. A chance to rebuild. But then my phone buzzed again. A different number. Sam. Hey Andrew. Been thinking about our talk. Can we meet again? I stared at the message, my heart skipping. Hadn't we closed that door? The room felt too quiet, the clock too loud. I put the phone down, leaning back. Why? Why drag it back up? I thought of Lily, of yesterday's difficult conversation. Andrew. It hurt, but it felt like shedding a weight. Hadn't it? Sam reaching out again felt like picking at a scab. But maybe it was another piece I needed to lay to rest. I picked up the phone. My fingers hovered. Finally, I sighed and typed. Okay. When and where? His reply was fast. Same coffee shop. Near the park. Tomorrow. 10. I felt that familiar dread mix with a strange resolve. Tomorrow. 10. The rest of the day passed in a fog. Work couldn't hold my focus. My thoughts kept circling back to Sam, to Lily, to the tangled wreckage. That evening, I went back to Dan's. He didn't pry. We just watched an old movie we loved as kids. For a few hours, I escaped. But driving home, the weight of the next meeting settled back on me. Sleep was thin and restless, filled with jumbled words and ambiguous faces. Morning came too soon. I got ready mechanically. The routine helped. The cafe was quiet when I arrived. I got coffee and sat by the window, watching the park. People walked by, lives seemingly simple. Sam arrived minutes later. His face was unreadable as he saw me and walked over. We exchanged a silent nod. He sat down. The silence stretched, tight and uncomfortable. "Thanks for coming," he said finally, his voice low. "I didn't know why we were here again," I admitted bluntly. "I thought we said it all yesterday." He nodded, looking at his hands. "I know. But there's something else." He took a deep breath, meeting my eyes. "Yesterday. I didn't just come to apologize. I wanted to tell you about Seattle because I wanted to give you this." He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small envelope, sliding it across the table. I stared at it. "What is it?" "It's a letter," he said, his voice tense. "From Lily. She wrote it after everything happened. She never sent it. I found it packing. You should read it." I hesitated. A letter from Lily? Written after the disaster? I wasn't sure I could bear it. But something in Sam's eyes told me I had to. I picked up the envelope. "Why didn't she send it?" "I don't know," he said. "Scared, maybe. Thought it wouldn't help. But I think she wanted you to have it." I nodded and slipped the envelope into my pocket. "Okay. I'll read it." We sat in silence again. Sam finally stood. "I hope it helps," he said quietly. "Thanks, Sam," I replied. "Safe trip." He nodded, a sad, small smile touching his lips. "Take care, Andrew." He left. As I watched him go, a deep sense of finality settled over me. Whatever the letter said, it felt like the last piece. The last thing I needed before truly letting go. I sat for a long time, the envelope heavy in my pocket, then stood and walked home. A quiet calm followed me. Whatever came next, I felt ready. Back in my quiet apartment, I placed the envelope on the kitchen table. My name, in Lily's handwriting, stared back. A bridge to a past I'd fought so hard to leave behind. I took a long, slow breath, feeling the air fill my lungs, and carefully opened it. The familiar loops and curves of her writing were like a punch. Andrew," it began. "I don't know how to start this. But I need you to know how sorry I am. I've replayed that night 1,000 times. I wish I could take it all back. I wish I could have seen the hurt I was causing before it was too late." I paused, her regret a tangible weight. Reading her words from that time felt surreal. I was selfish, Andrew. I thought I was doing what was right for me. I didn't see how wrong it was for us. Sam was a mistake. I see that now. I was searching for something I didn't realize I already had with you. Her confess Andrew was a bomb and a wound. Months of wondering why, answered in her own hand. I don't expect forgiveness. I know I lost that right. But I hope one day you can remember the good times. I hope you find happiness, even if it's not with me. I put the letter down. My hands were trembling. It was everything I needed to hear and nothing I wanted to know. Her words were honest, raw, but they couldn't rewrite history. They couldn't undo the betrayal or the long months of pain. Yet, a profound sense of peace washed over me. This was it. The final page. Hearing her voice from the heart of the storm, facing the ghosts, it was done. I leaned back, closing my eyes. The apartment was silent except for the distant city hum. I took another deep breath, feeling the tight knots inside me slowly loosen. It was over. The chapter that had consumed my life was closed. I had faced Sam. I had faced Lily. Now, I faced myself. The man forged in the fire of their betrayal. Stronger. Wiser. More careful. I stood up, carefully folded the letter, and placed it back in the envelope. It was part of my story now, a reminder of where I'd been. But it didn't define me anymore. Walking to the window, I looked out at the city waking up. People moving, living their lives, unaware of the battles fought in quiet rooms. I felt connected to them, part of the shared human struggle. My phone buzzed. Dan. Dinner at 6. Don't be late. I smiled. Family. Warmth. Steadiness. I texted back. I'll be there. Putting the phone down, I felt a spark of anticipation. The future was unknown, but for the first time in a long, long time, I was ready for it. Ready to step into the light. I took one last look at the envelope, a silent farewell to the past, and walked out the door. The sun was warm. As I walked, I felt lighter. Freer. The past was behind me. The future was mine to shape. Whatever it brought, I knew I could meet it. I was ready to live. Ready to find my own path. And walking towards my family, I felt a quiet certainty settle in my bones. Everything was going to be okay.